So yeah, so we are going to talk a little bit about this piece we did together.
Yeah.
I thought maybe I'd say one little thing about the I don't know, structure may be a bit heavy, but excuse me, the piece kind of uses these two different energies. One is a kind of a funky, I don't know if it's feet on the ground, but it's, there's a swagger to it,
Right.
which I imagine astronauts of that caliber probably had when they were walking
Yes.
on Earth.
It's kind of the right stuff groove, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then there's a music that I regard as sort of 1/6 the gravity of
Yeah.
Earth.
No,
That
the
sort of-
specific gravity it's like, whoa, we are not on the same planet anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally
And
cool.
you're the one that really makes the contrast because the levitation comes with your these arpeggios that include open strings that kind of
Yep.
keeps a lot of resonance going.
Yeah.
So,
No, and the what was interesting for me, as an autodidact on the guitar, I basically have to learn the technique according to what it is I now want to play.
Yeah.
So whether that's figuring out PMIA, or whether it's so I need to shift like this, or okay, I need to hold these notes down while letting these others resonate.
Yeah.
That's all, that was all part of the discovery. So I did feel a little bit like the NASA team at times going, we're not going to be able to fit tubes into this thing. We need transistors. Okay. And then it's like, whoa, all sorts of other things open up.
Well, another thing I was thinking of from your point of view is that, as a, consummate musician, completely literate, I mean, as a musician, to look at these things where the higher notes are on the lower strings and
Yes.
which is very kind of natural for me at this point as a guitarist
No, and this was the thing that really messed with it, because there would be these moments where I would be doing an arpeggio and I think I need to lift that finger, and I would look down at the finger and and I would say lift number 2 and up comes number 3, and you go, no, I need the FU finger, which is really just, it's crazy, but that's the thing where some of them, and in fact, in order to teach myself a number of them, I had to actually write exercises, where I just backed away and said, okay, we're going to leave the left hand. We're just going to pick the strings in this order. Yeah. And that was the way that actually allowed me to sort of get used to that the higher string, the higher sound is not the string that is higher up on the 1 through 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's part of the, it's part of the, I don't know, one of the tricks of composing for a guitar. When
Yes.
I used to be asked to do that, to do talks about that more, but yes, because the guitar can really resonate nicely as you demonstrate, and really be kind of interesting. And those chords just don't sound, the mixture of fingered notes and open notes. It's not just to get all those notes in there, but the texture of having those two kind of sounds cohabitate is really special and unique to the guitar.
Yeah, and the funny thing is the actual, my background is that of a recovering horn player. Although people say, well, you never fully recover. But of course, on the horn, unlike the other brass instruments, say tuba, trumpet, trombone, the nature of all of the very conical tubing, the number of turns that it has, means that where you actually pitch the notes is far higher on an overtone scale. So the physical overtones off of a fundamental than it is on the other brass instruments. And so you're aware of the kinds of colors of those harmonics.
Yeah.
And so when I get on the guitar, that's one of the things that, even when I'm tuning, and it'll happen on an acoustic or an electric. I was tuning the other day, and I I would tune, and to really see if is that one right. I let that B natural just kind of get the low E to start, and I can hear that note emerge, which is so cool for me. But so the difference, for example, between holding a chord up at the 12th position with resonating strings and holding a chord down in the first or second position with resonating strings, it's the same basic operation, but the actual sound that is coming out of your instrument is really sort of another sort of version on reality. It is just fascinating.
No, absolutely. Well, you negotiated it very well. I don't know how much you had to. I mean, it sounds like you did exercises, but I did a diagnostic on the kind of the melodic parts. You sent me the blues riffs, and so I said, oh yeah, okay, he's comfortable in the box. That's what we in the business call the box.
I'm caged.
Yeah. But yeah, so those they're not chords in any Mel Bay music for millions sense.
Watch out, Hal Leonard. We're coming for you.
That's right. And you negotiated them very, very well, very smoothly, very nicely. And I was particularly pleased to see like the scales. I think whole tone scales. Right. Part of the weightlessness, of course, is you got to have whole tone scales. Right, that's how Debussy does clouds. That's how I do Moonwalks. So
there you go.
But to get those whole tone scales all on a different string is get the notes out of the way, get your fingers out of the way. You did an excellent job. And I should say for people watching this, that we're talking to David like he's not a lifetime guitar player, and that's because he's not a lifetime guitar player.
Right.
And one of the world's great conductors, but I tell you, even more impressive is an adult that can pick up something new as an adult is an impressive thing. And you've come a long way. We've come a long way from playful banter about playing a piece together to actually playing a real piece of music where I forget that you're not, a shredder just like the other, 6 people on Another Night on Earth.
Yeah. Well, it's very strange because I had to really knuckle down and practice because when you're an autodidact at the same time, if you're not in front of a teacher, who's every week saying, okay, how did that go? You kind of just cut all these corners for yourself. Oh, well, that sucked, but it was. And I'm in this strange sort of place where I just play for fun. I'm not giving up my day job anytime soon to join a band. But at the same time, my work has gone in such a way that I'm fortunate to work with basically the world's best musicians. That's the standard I am used to. I don't produce that standard. I help make it happen in concerts and conducting. But suddenly being in the situation where I'm not imagining a score perfectly in my mind, but having to realize a score perfectly on a physical instrument, it's like I am so angry with myself a lot of times. And so there were like 1 or 2 chords. I remember texts back and forth going, "It's such a stress. I'll never get it." And then suddenly realizing, I got it. I couldn't play it 2 times through.
Well, it's like bar chords. You work and you work and you don't get it and you don't get it, and then one morning you can play a bar chord and all 6-note sound. And early recordings that you sent me were kind of what I expected, you know. And I figured, I'll carry this show. And then by the time we got to the real deal, I am not carrying the show. It's clean and mean and really strong.
Well, it helped that we were able to bring the metronome down to several stress levels lower.
Yeah, for which I am forever thankful. If it wasn't for that metronome, I don't think I would have come up with the kind of the loop at the
Yeah,
beginning and
yeah,
the snap
right.
pits kind of thing. And because I need time to produce those, so I gave myself some time
Sure.
to produce that sound. But
I think the thing that was fun actually was, during COVID, we went on a trip in an RV, which I've never done before, with my two boys and then one of my older boys from a previous marriage. So we had three drivers. Orly was also driving, and we were all fixing meals, and we were all in this small space. So everybody heard me practicing every day,
yeah.
on this stuff. So they know the chords by heart, but they knew none of the context. And I remember when we first put the things together and played the recording, they were all going, "Oh, that makes sense now." They would hear me doing, and it was like, wow, this piece is really minimal. He does that 20 times before moving on. And at one point, one of them said, "Is that just hard for you? Is that why you're playing?"
I played over and over.
It was. I was eating humble pie the whole July, August, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say before you said, well, it's really minimal. I was going to say, playing something 20 times is perfectly respectable for another part of town.
Yeah.
And it's also really indigenous to the guitar, especially
Right.
when you get your hands in that kind of a shape with that kind of resonance, and I really don't. It's not like I play when we get to those passages of weightlessness. It's not like I play some soaring melody. I really just kind of lay down this, machine prepared guitar,
Right.
sort of half gong, half the, vibrating rocker arm on the lunar excursion module,
Right.
So it's just, it's one of the things that the guitar brings out in me is like, we're going to just sit here and groove. We're going to,
Yeah.
groove on it, which
Well, I remember the very first time we actually did play together was when I had you down, not as a guitarist, but purely as a composer in Sydney, when we were doing Beautiful Passing and recording that for the first time. Was it Beautiful Passing, or was it
I think
Nemosine's Pool?
I think Beautiful Passing was first, and then Nemosine's Pool. Yeah,
But you brought your guitars. Yes, it was for Beautiful Passing, because you brought your guitars and we borrowed an amp.
right.
And you kind of, said, "Well, let's play some blues." And I thought, well, I can do a bar chord of an A7, a D7, and that. So I'll be okay. And you said, "No, I'll just play the vamp. You solo over it."
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, "Oh, okay." And then, I was playing these totally lame pentatonic melodies while you had this fantastic groove thing going on. And I was like, "Oh, I suck so badly." But what was interesting was to hear that kind of, that groove that can really just, like a John Lee Hooker.
Yeah, that just can be. Yeah.
And you can just go on forever.
Gone. I don't think John Lee Hooker knows any chord other than E major, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. No one. I remember listening to a whole album of his, blues, and I was fixing dinner, and one of my kids came in, the one with perfect pitch and the brain that built his own computer and will tell you everything about airplanes from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s and what they were used for in their various different specifications and the kind of lug nut used on this particular Soviet era engine. He came in and said, "Does he ever play in any other keys?" And you want to go, maybe not,
Yeah.
But do you hear what's happening with that groove?
Exactly. Just yeah.
And so that was kind of interesting in Moonwalk, to get into one of those things where I would start it, and it was strange. I remember when I would do it, I'm used to looking around.
Yeah.
And it's not like I had to look at the pick to play the strings, because when I was working on the stuff, I was, looking at the.
Yeah.
But there's something about, you just get folded into this area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's you and the pick.
Yeah.
And
well, that's one of the beauty parts.
It's just such a fascinating thing to sort of get into. Yeah. But the problem I found psychologically was I would get into it, and then it's like getting out.
Yeah, right.
Doing this, and it's sort of like, that 7/8 bar is coming up. That 7/8 bar is coming up. You're going to have to now move. And I sounded a little bit like one of those Mike Myers, the world is getting ready to end voices as the bomb is ticking down. 10 seconds to moving your fingers. 5 seconds to, but I would always explode, and I would have to start over again. But it was, it's a fascinating thing, because it does teach you. And one of the things that people tend to forget is just how the brain is this really plastic thing. And so stuff that when you sent me first, the little melody of just sort of the two different contrasting things. Exactly, the melody, and then a chord which would resonate. And that was about, I don't know, 35 seconds of music when I recorded it and sent it back to you, to say, yes, I can play this. And that was so locked into my brain that when you sent the actual score over, and I realized, oh no, it starts a whole tone down from that.
It's transposed.
And of course on the guitar, it's you, idiot, you just move your hand a little further down. But it was like the whole sort of sense of, for about a week.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the neural circuits had found their ways, and the axons had found the action potentials, and it was like you just go, okay, here it is. And now, with that, now we're up to here.
Yeah.
So it was very fascinating as a kind of meta sense.
Yeah, it reminds me of three things. One is there's where your literacy gets you into trouble, because when you learn the guitar the way I learned the guitar, it's just shapes, and it's the same shape. I just go a little more west, but you are looking at notes, and they're different notes, but also one thing that you said, I think was very interesting, the way you did, I'm very happy to hear and see you do that move, because that's what I wanted to get you into in the guitar. And that's something that, that's why guitarists, there is a demographic in the world of guitarists, and it's the willingness to, just to get in there and exist in that place.
Yeah. No, it's a fascinating thing, and the part that I think has helped me actually understand, not only your music better, but like sort of strange things where all of a sudden one of my favorite Zappa pieces is a piece that he wrote as part of selection called The Yellow Shark for Ensemble Moderne. And in it there is his piece G-Spot Tornado.
Yeah,
and
I've played many times. Yeah.
With a number of different groups, but I've always performed it in the ensemble version. Yeah. And suddenly, when I was noodling around on the guitar, and this is like when we first had you over for the guitar festival,
in St. Louis.
Around that time, and we were performing it as part of that. And I suddenly remember thinking, of course, this is a total guitar tune. Because if you play the tune on the piano, you think, how did he come up with this?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
and the same thing like with Nemesine's Pool in the slow movement, where you suddenly realize, yeah, of course, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But and you know, you talk about the shifting of positions.
Yeah.
It's hell for pianists who have to play Debussy when he wants, I want this same color on these, because all of a sudden the hand position changes depending on the white and black keys, whereas on the guitar I can just grab that shape and up you go and back down you go.
Well, you're giving away one of my big secrets is, people have said that I'm imaginative. They like or not like my music, but people have said, he's a really imaginative composer. I'm actually not that imaginative. It's just, it comes from the guitar, which skews everything. So by the time it gets into the French horn, it's like, wow, what an imaginative line.
That's right. Well, but you have to hand it to you, because it's like either you tune to the overtone series, octave, fifth, fourth, third, minor third, and so fine, or you say we're going to tune to perfect fifths, G, D, A, E, and so you got that, or you're going to organize the keyboard in terms of 7 white notes and 5 black notes, and so. And the guitar goes, but how about if we do fourth, 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 major, third, fourth? It's
exactly.
What?
Yeah.
What kind of peyote were those Spaniards working on when that's what they came up with?
Yeah. And there's again, I think, it's great that you're an autodidact and I was an autodidact, because then you approach the instrument as this phenomenon instead of normalizing it in terms of, yes, these notes that are on the staff still exist here, but you just, you
go for the feeling.
Yeah, you get the feeling, So.
Well, I mean, the thing that's always surprised me, and what actually, once, because I got into the electric guitar to some extent by accident. My wife bought me an acoustic, and I thought, oh, let's not go the easy nylon string route. Let's go for a steel string guitar. So, I was, bleeding fingers.
Blisters on my fingers.
Oh, man, just before the calluses were there. Yeah. And then what would happen is, because I'm a conductor and my life is much of the time on the road, I'd practice, I'd put the guitar in its case, I'd go away for 2 weeks, I'd come back and, oh, you are a beginner again. Yes, you can't find that E minor chord. And it was like, this has got to stop. So I thought, well, practice guitars. I looked at that, and then I thought, I've always been fascinated by the electric guitar. Let me do that. They're clearly, according to Pete Townsend, indestructible. You could bash them over anything, and they'll still make a good sound. So, so I bought myself a Stratocaster to make me look a lot better than I am, and I would carry it on planes. And the wonderful thing is that, well, first of all, the strings are closer to butter after a steel string. Yeah. But second of all was you can carry it around, and if you don't plug it in, it's very soft and has a beautiful lute-like sound by itself.
That's right.
But then when I did start to sort of think, well, I really ought to plug it in once in a while, the first thing that occurred to me is that the vibrating string is literally just a signal. Mm-hmm. And so with that signal, all of the sort of things that are opened when you take the top off of Pandora's box, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And having worked with electronic music and composers who are really pushing the envelope of sort of avant-garde, just the kind of evolving sound that you can get out of a couple of stop boxes and different kinds of strings and different positions on the guitar. It's just amazing.
Oh, and every guitarist has a unique sound. Every sort of notable guitarist has a unique sound. You'd say that about a violinist, but there's a paradigm for violin playing that you sort of must be able to do that, because there's this music that exists that's pre-existing, whereas the guitar, most of the music is guitarist composers, it's coming out, and or improvisers. So the combination of touch, and touch with the right hand. Jeff Beck plays with his fingers. People play with I play with a pick and fingers, and how tightly you hold. Bill Frisell has a steel grip, and there's an extra resonance with his left hand. You funnel that through whatever pickup configuration and tone configuration and amplifier and then stomp boxes, and guitarists dial that in over a lifetime. To tickle their particular fancy, and it's really, it becomes a different thing than achieving the paradigm of a violinist or any other instrument.
No, and I think the thing that's wonderful with that is that it really the actual sound of an electric guitar unplugged is kind of like the raw material.
Yeah.
And from that raw material, then you can go in all sorts of different ways.
Right.
This is there are times I'm a big Eventide fan, and occasionally, when I've been alone in a hotel room and just through some nice small speakers very softly, just one by one, hearing all of the possibilities that open up on a particular preset that you might.
Yeah, you are now giving away another one of my secrets, is that if you just set some presets, they're inspiring, right? Yeah. If a particular, a delay and a chorus, and that sounds good. It makes me want to play. It makes me want to play this, and your fingers, react to that sound.
Right.
And that's the oboe solo from from this piece or that piece.
That's right. Well, what's interesting is, I remember when I just dipped my toes into the whole guitar world, and you would go and you find that, most guitarists, even the driver, this great guy, Anthony, who was a former horse policeman in New York City, wonderful guy. And, and I was actually doing a Berkeley course and practicing like crazy in between every moment I wasn't on the podium, just to try and get, pentatonic scales in more than one octave. Yeah. And, because that teacher was demanding. And we would do the thing of, and I sort of had the guitar, and he said, "Oh yeah, I got some guitars." And it turns out, he had like 7 guitars, and I said, "You play with anybody?" "No, but," and I sort of was like, people buy a lot of guitars. And then, at a certain point I caved because I had the Strat, and I said, the Les Paul, it looks real. People talk, so, they talk about the sustain, and,
and it goes to 11.
Exactly, and
you can hear the sustain.
So then all of a sudden, I got one, and I realized, wow, there are things on this particular instrument that I want to play, and things that don't fit on another instrument. Yeah. And yes, you can play it on the other instrument, but it doesn't feel like it's at home.
Yeah.
It feels like it's on a sleepover. And at some point, it needs to go back to the actual place it lived.
Yeah, and that works both ways. Like you're saying, it doesn't feel at home, but there's also things that you wouldn't have thought of were it not for your hands interfacing with that instrument. It's really magic. Yeah.
Well, we could go on forever.
We could go on forever.
This is just kind of like a sort of ding, 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 ding. But
maybe we should put an end to this madness.
Yes, we should. Well, actually, the thing that'll end it is the piece that I wrote for you and me. That was scary.
I learned. Well, that was interesting. Well, we should save that conversation for this. I got to get back to. I learned the whole thing, but I must admit I haven't practiced it for a while because of this opera gig you got me all of a sudden, which gave me an imminent deadline in a landscape where all my deadlines were pushed back for 2-3 years. So
but at least you'll be using the music that you wrote for Moonwalk.
I'm going to send you a score and a MIDI mock-up of this, because the first 2 scenes, the first scene is the piece I wrote for Gretchen. The second scene, and it works perfectly. Our our two lines. I'm Neil. My funky snap pits ninth leap in our piece is Neil Armstrong sneezing. Achoo! You know, and you're going. Do you think? Do you think the red or do you think the rose would be better?
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So I'll send it to you, and you can
I like
revel
being Jana.
in my repurposing. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, it's as always, it's just a huge pleasure to talk to you.
You too, David.
Yeah.
And one of these days we're going to be face to face and fretboard to fretboard. How about
That's
that?
it. That's
Yeah.
it.
All right.
All right.